Greetings, my dear viewers. It is I, Druid, back once again with a Dungeons & Dragons character concept optimized. We take a look at different multi-class builds using only 2 classes and seeing how we can min-max them to their most powerful versions, making them optimal for the right games, which is going to be most games. But today we're going to be doing 2 classes that will end up getting you banned from multi-classing. Or technically we'll just ban multi-classing altogether because it is so powerful with the right push. Now, what am I talking about? We are talking about the Druid Wizard multi-class, and the reason why this multi-class is extremely powerful is because both classes specialize in summoning and field control, and both classes are able to summon or enhance familiars. But I would like to point out that a lot of these spells that are going to be shown at the end of this video are based off of concentration, as you can clearly see. And this is actually the main weakness of these classes. This class combination specializes in the concentration spell. And if you do not know, concentration is, well, concentrating on a spell, which means you can only concentrate on one concentration spell at a time. If you try to cast another spell that requires concentration, the first one drops. But there's another way to get rid of your concentration. And one important detail that Dungeon Masters seem to forget is that you can deal enough damage to your concentrating spellcaster to cause them to drop the spell. The DC of which is going to be 10 or half of the damage that the caster takes, whichever one's higher. If you take damage from multiple sources, such as an arrow and a dragon's breath, you make a separate saving throw each source of damage. So you might succeed on the first save, but on the second save, not so much. And this concentration is one of the reasons why I absolutely hate the trope of the wizard dropping their constitution score during character creation. It makes no sense, since you need concentration to keep some of these more powerful spells active. So, with that being said, let's go ahead and take a look at some of these builds. For our goals, we need to look at our race, background, druid levels and subclass, as well as our wizard levels and subclass to have an optimal build. We can't just rely on the druid and the wizard. We need to see what race and background options are also available that complement these classes. That's a very important thing about multi-classing. You need to find features that complement each other. You can't just have subclasses or racial features that go against or outclass your other features. It just makes a poor build. Secondly, our goals are going to be as follows. You need a high constitution alongside your wisdom and intelligence. Remember, we have 2 different types of spell casting modifiers here. Druid uses wisdom and wizard uses intelligence. Now, yes, this is going to be a mad build, multi-ability dependent build, because you are working with concentration. Speaking of, don't drop concentration. It is important that you do not drop your concentration. Next, a high armor class is preferable, but it is not completely necessary. And finally, this is a build about making an army. So you are going to need spells and abilities that allow you to not only summon, but empower your summons. Now, this is going to be one of the few times that I'm going to give you a suggested ability score array to start out with. Dexterity and strength are not necessary, but they do not need to be below a 10. Your charisma is probably going to be your only dump stat. Your constitution, of course, cannot be below a 12. I would recommend a 13 if you're using the point-buy system. Your intelligence and wisdom are going to need to be pretty high, I would say 15. But your intelligence does not really affect how many spells your wizard are able to have. Yes, you'll be able to prepare more spells, but it is not completely necessary to have a higher intelligence unless you are looking to increase your saving throw for your enemies to fail more often than not. So an alternate ability score array would be having a constitution at a 15 with intelligence at a 13. This isn't going to matter too much since we are going to have some race options that will increase these ability scores. Speaking of, let's go ahead and get into the races. No surprise to anyone, but the Vidalcan is our number one race for a multi-class build such as this, because of their ability Vidalcan Dispassion, giving us advantage on our intelligence, wisdom, and charisma saving throws. But there are two other races that are optimal for this multi-class build, that being the Goliath and the Loxodon. Now, the reason why I chose these two races over any other race are because of their features. With the Goliath, we have the ability Little Giant, which means we count as one size larger when determining our carrying capacity and the weight we can push, drag, and lift. Since we only have a 10 for our strength, we are going to need to be able to pull our weight. Secondly, we have Stone Endurance, which means we are able to reduce the damage that we take, giving us a better time with our concentration saves. For the Loxodon, we have something very similar. The powerful build for determining our carrying capacity, and we have Natural Armor. This gives us an armor class of 12 plus our constitution modifier, which means if we have a high enough constitution, like say a 16, we have a +3 modifier, which means we have a starting armor class of 15, which also means that we have good health and good armor class. So even if we do get hit, we are still going to be able to make our concentration checks. We also get a trunk, which can be useful, and we also get keen smell, giving us advantage on wisdom perception, survival, and the intelligence investigation checks that require smell. So it's honestly a pretty decent race to have. I would even say it is almost as good as the Vidalcan. But I also made sure that Goliath was on here, since that Stone's Endurance is almost just as good. So in actuality, your Vidalcan will be your number one pick, while it'll be a toss-up between Loxodon and Goliath for second place. Moving on to our background, we are going to be picking either the Strixhaven Student or the Mage of High Sorcery. both of these backgrounds have the same purpose, being able to add spells to our spell list without taking up the number of spells that we are able to prepare. For Strixhaven students, we want Silver Quill. For our Mage of High Sorcery, we are going to want the Nutari. I hope I'm pronouncing that right. I am not very well versed in my Dragonlance lore, as Jordana would probably be able to agree with. Anywho, Silver Quill gets access to 2 cantrips. Sacred Flame and Vicious Mockery are going to be your ideal spells to pick here, and your first level spell is going to have to be Shield of Faith, which will give you access to another 2 armor class, which, again, very necessary. For your Mage of High Sorcery, your cantrip should be Toll the Dead, while your first level spells should be Dissonant Whispers and Hex. In actuality, if you are going to have access to more spells at first level, say with Magic Initiate, any spells from the Bard, Cleric, Ranger, or Warlock are going to be your best friend here. Especially with the fact that these classes do have class-specific spells. So having access to those spells that you normally would not be able to get would be ideal. Moving on to our first class, the Druid. We're going to go with an even 10-10 split here, and you are going to see why in just a moment. For our subclass, we are going to need Circle of the Shepherd, and I'm pretty sure I just felt DMs everywhere shiver in fear. For good reason too, because Circle of the Shepherd is a pretty powerful subclass. And I learned recently that this subclass gets the banhammer a lot of the time. And that's probably because of its abilities. While Speech of the Woods is pretty good, it's not exactly the best piece here. That would be the Spirit Totem. And if we pick the Unicorn Spirit, that will give us the ability to give advantage to our allies on all ability checks made to detect creatures in the spirit's aura. In addition, if you cast a spell using a spell slot that restores hit points to any creature inside or outside the aura, each creature of your choice in the aura also regains hit points equal to your Druid level. So, if you have a bunch of your summoned allies, or some summons from one of your allies, that'll be important later, inside the aura, they count as your allies. So that means if you cast a healing spell on someone outside of the aura, your allies inside your Unicorn Spirit's aura will also regain hit points, which is very important. Next, you have Mighty Summoner. This means that beasts and fae that you conjure are more resilient than normal. This gives them an extra 2 hit points per hit die it has, which is a very nice ability. Not as nice as the second part Mighty Summoner is able to give. Your beast and fae conjurations are able to deal some more damage. The damage from its natural weapons is considered magical for the purposes of overcoming immunity and resistances to non-magical attacks and damage, which is very good for those few creatures that are either immune or resistant to non-magical damage. And finally, we have the Guardian Spirit, which is another excellent feature. Beginning at 10th level, your Totem Spirit safeguards the beasts and fae that you call forth with your magic. When a beast or fae that you summoned or created with a spell ends its turn in your Spirit Totem aura, that creature regains a number of hit points equal to half your Druid level. Again, very important to keep your summons inside the Unicorn aura. Not only do your healing spells also heal the creatures inside that aura, but the spirit itself will heal your summons, which is amazing and why a lot of dungeon masters will ban this subclass. So be a little courteous and use this sparingly. Use it for an epic battle or something. Just to note that you're not going to see Find Familiar in the spell list, and this is because the Druid gains access to Wild Companion at 2nd level, giving us access to Find Familiar. So it is very good that we have this option. And probably why Circle of the Shepherd is getting banned more frequently nowadays. Moving on to our wizard. We're going to go with Chronergy Magic. This is mostly because of Arcane Ambience, which gives us the ability to turn a spell that we cast into a small mote of magic that we can give to somebody else, and that person can use their action to release the spell, making it so it seems like that they are casting it for the purposes of certain casting requirements. But in actuality, it is using your spell save DC and spell attack bonuses. So technically, you cast it, but for the purposes of concentration, someone else is casting it. So give this to your barbarian, or give it to your familiar. That way they get access to another concentration spell that you can use perfectly. Almost as if you're using it, which sort of you are. Another good option is the War Magic subclass. This is because of the Arcane Deflection feature. When you are hit by an attack, or you fail a saving throw, you can use your reaction to gain a +2 bonus to your AC against the attack, or a +4 bonus to the saving throw. Your concentration throws are saving throws, so if you somehow manage to fail, you might be able to succeed by adding this bonus. When you use this feature, you can't cast spells other than cantrips until the end of your next turn. So it does have a small drawback, but that is just a small price to pay for not losing concentration. Another ability that you're able to get is at 10th level, the Durable Magic. This will give you a +2 to your armor class and saving throws while you maintain concentration on a spell. Now, of course, I can't talk about Conjuration Magic without talking about the School of Conjuration, because we have the ability of Focused Conjuration at 10th level. While you're concentrating on a conjuration spell, your concentration can't be broken as a result of taking damage. So these three subclasses are very much ideal for having a Druzard, because you are trying to focus on conjuration spells more often than not. So any of these three would actually be ideal for your build. Though in all honesty, I would say that the School of Conjuration is probably one of your best ones, though the Chronergy Magic is perfect for accessing multiple concentration spells at the same time, since you aren't the one concentrating on the spell. So yeah, a lot of these subclasses are good for this build. You just gotta be able to pick the correct one. Now for our feats. Warcaster is going to be the most necessary out of these four. Spell Sniper is not entirely necessary, though it would be ideal to have. Tough also not necessary, it'll just give you access to more hit points. The only other feat here that is necessary is Resilient, which will give you access to concentration saving throw proficiency. So it is ideal for that, for your constitution saving throws. So keep that in mind. And now, to finish off this video, we are going over the recommended spell list. For your druid spells, I recommend the following. Cantrips, we have Druidcraft, Primal Savagery, Shillelagh, Thorn Whip. Your first level spells, we have Cure Wounds, Entangle, Fairy Fire, Fog Cloud, Goodberry, and Thunder Wave. Second level, we have Earthbind, Flaming Sphere, Healing Spirit, and Heat Metal. Third level, we have Call Lightning and Conjure Animals. Your fourth level spell will be Conjure Woodland Beings. For your fifth level spell, we have Mass Cure Wounds. For your wizard, we have the following cantrips on our spellbook. Firebolt, Lightning Lure, Mind Sliver, Shocking Grasp, and Sword Burst. First level spells, Burning Hands, Catapult, Detect Magic, Hideous Laughter, Ice Knife, Jump, Magic Missile, Shield, Silvery Barbs, and Sleep. Second level, we have Cloud of Daggers, Dragon's Breath, Flock of Familiars, Tasha's Mind Whip. Third level, Counterspell, Dispel Magic, Fireball, Summon Fae, and Hypnotic Pattern. For your fourth level spells, we have Black Tentacles, Conjure Minor Elementals, and Sickening Radiance. And finally, your fifth level spell, Immolation. And with that being said, that is all the time I have for you today. I do hope you enjoyed this video. And for you dungeon masters out there that are very curious, these spells do have their weaknesses. The main one, of course, being the concentration check. But there are other ways to get around these spells without nerfing them. I do have a couple of videos going over that very subject. So look for those in my channel. Until next time, this has been Drehan, and I am offline.